Okay.
So it's going.
All right. Coach Nick,
Hello.
why did you decide to become a coach?
What for me is useful to point out is that it wasn't just there it is, oh, that's what I decided to be. It was an evolution of I don't get so much juice about what I was doing working in banking for 20 years. What do I like out of doing that stuff? And then what is the natural conclusion on what I should do based on those outcomes? And so I spent 20 years working in that industry, probably for the last five, I pretty much exclusively coached and mentor people with my team or other teams, just sitting down one to one, helping people. And there was a lot of history before that as well, but that's what I like to do. And I thought, okay, well, what if how could I do this all the time? And that's why I found out what coaching was. I didn't really even know what it was before I was doing it. What actually is coaching, and how do I help people? And the big distinction was that oftentimes I'd help people that I was work with, like it would be received well, sometimes mediocre, sometimes not much at all, because there was a lot of people there that were there because they thought it was the right place to be. If I'm in this work for a big company, then it will be good for me, rather than I'm here because I love to be here and I must be here and I must get the result. And that's the difference with the people I work with now. It's people that own their results, own their outcomes, own their success, and must get to their outcomes. And that's the people I work with now. That's the important part for me of working with those people that have already kind of graduated their way into knowing that there always success, but then there's so much more that they can put on top of that as well.
So if I hear you right, it was an evolution of trying to figure out, okay, I like what I do here. I don't like what I'm doing there. How do I do more of what I like?
Hmm.
And then over time you realized that coaching was it. How did you actually make that? That's a big decision, a big life change. How did you actually make that decision?
I really like personal development and the concept that anything is possible, and playing around with what the mindset of success with was. And that journey started probably like 7 or 8 years, maybe more, before I decided to get into coaching. So that was kind of running alongside what I liked, and then mating that with what I could actually do based on my experience. But there was a moment when working on Wall Street, like a Tuesday afternoon, where I just was walking around for lunch, having a walk around lunchtime, and went back to the office and just was in the atrium and just thinking, man, I don't want to go back upstairs. I don't want to go sit there and be with my team there. I had some team there, some team down in Florida, and it's not really. I didn't want to be around those people. It's just they didn't seem to have a purpose. My thought was, well, if I go up there and do that, okay, and if I don't, okay, no one really cares either way. No, it doesn't really make a difference. And that was a moment. It's like I just want to go home, and then like, oh, why should I be here at all? And then just thinking, okay, I want to get through this Tuesday. And then realizing that that's my Tuesday. It's not good for the bank that I'm just there not doing it. It's certainly not good for me because it's my Tuesday. This is my life, and I should be the outcome of a Tuesday afternoon should be just as good as any other outcome any other day of the week. And so that was the catalyst for me.
So how did you actually take the action that resulted in why Pro Advisor Coach?
And that was a long time before Pro Advisor Coach. My first journey was, I thought, at the time, like who's in the, as I was just figuring out and researching what coaching was, like who's in this coaching and personal development space. And Tony Robbins was the first person I found there, and I had a great journey working and discovering coaching through Tony Robbins and doing that. But when I found Pro Advisor Coach, for me there was a switch in terms of the fit. It was a great experience there. But when I met Rich, CEO here, and I understood what Pro Advisor Coach was in totality, it was what I really wanted. I wanted to be able to get in a place where I could work with who I wanted to work with, so have my own business, but also be supported by the people that are around me that have done it before, are doing it alongside me, perhaps in a different way, but give me different looks, but have the support and a community that continues to build where we can all win together. We can work together with, we can have people work with our clients. We can work on other clients that are primary for other coaches, and then we can all build together from a technological perspective, from a relationship perspective, from a opportunity perspective, and just have some scale that you wouldn't be able to manage by yourself, and have some outcome, have some legacy as well, have a way of continuing to add to my business that I was growing, but continue to coaching. Because one of the things I guess is concerning from a coaching perspective is that if you take away all of the things that might have happened in a previous career, so for me it was leading people as a responsibility, especially when most people didn't necessarily want to be there, challenging enough when they do. And removing all that felt like a good idea, but then it was like, hey, it's on me. That's great, but it's also I can only produce so much by myself, and so just working by yourself as a coach, there's not as much leverage, and that's totally fine. But wasn't fine for me because I knew that I wanted to create as much as possible when I can't do that by myself. Having a team and a way to create passive income and a longevity of optionality, it was really important.
How did you actually meet Coach Rich?
I met Coach Rich through LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me that story. Is there a story there?
It was just a reach out, a message on LinkedIn. Are you interested in this? Does this sound like something I might be interested in? It's like, yeah, let's have a conversation. We set up a Zoom call much like this one and just had a conversation. Start from the
Okay.
beginning.
And how long before you knew from the initial meet and greet with Rich on Zoom, how long did it take you before you decided, yeah, this is right for me?
It felt great initially. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was still figuring it out. Important part was the relationship. You know, I'm always talking about now how important relationships are in business, and obviously in every other part of life. I think it's the backbone of everything, and so that was something that I really felt immediately was just the connection of, hey, let's see where we are. Let's see what we got here, and let's understand this isn't a transaction. This is a relationship, and what was really key for me was that connectivity. Now, happened to be that we were geographically very close together as well. So that's important to be able to have that connection, that personal connection, as well as the business connection immediately or very, very soon. And that was helpful to kind of start to create the momentum early on for sure.
Did you have any doubts?
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Doubts about everything. Like doubts about, is this the right thing? Can I do it? Is it really going to be true for me? I think that's not something I ever. Removing doubt from anything is not something I've looked for. I think that's a prerequisite of any given anything that's important, right? It's not decision making is not a certainty. It's a value clarification. You know, so definitely doubts, but there was evidence that like this path exists, and if you want to come run on it, you can. And there's enough certainty for me to start to run on the path.
I remember when you started, we started at the same time.
Yeah.
And in my perspective, was you're too young to afford to not make enough money until you have the client base you need. That was my own thinking.
Yeah.
And I thought we all had to have a runway, like a long
Right.
runway. So can you share like what was your reality and how, because you kind of did this doing both things for a while. Can you share that history?
So I'd made the leap from the corporate world from a full-time perspective, but I was still doing some consulting in the banking world. That was the primary part of my income. I was doing coaching on the side, and so this pro advisor coach part was a third endeavor, and it was a very interesting time. I think the big key for me is that I'd already made it a must. I'd already taken on the risk that I had to put it on the line. And so balancing the three things in order to create my own runway, if you will, as it's like putting the runway down in front of me as the plane's going along, was kind of the way that it was important for me to do. And it's just, it was a must that it had to work. Like it had to work. And at a certain point, and I had to take those other two things off the table in order to have more time to invest into pro advisor coach to get it going. And it's not even that long ago, like 3-4 years, but it seems like looking back, that was a lot. But for me at that time, it's just I had to go do it. And so, and everyone's different in terms of what their outcome is and how important it is for them. But for me, you said it's like I perhaps didn't seem like I didn't have. I was too young take that type of risk to not do it. For me, it was the other way around. It's like I had to. It's like there was the other option was just not viable. So this was the thing that had to be the case. It's like I
So you're
could
saying
not do it.
pain was so great, you had to. That's why you had that mindset. I must do this because there was so much pain.
'Cause I knew that the previous version of the career that I was in wasn't anything that I wanted. So any more days in that place was days I couldn't invest in the place I wanted to be. So it's like I couldn't. I had to do it as soon as possible. Had to be that way. Yeah.
All right. How long did it take you to, in your mind, really kind of hit your sweet spot in coaching? Like you started in 2019. When did you feel like, yeah, I'm a pretty good coach and I got pretty good results? How long did it take?
Well, at that point, I was completely certain in my coaching, but I think the difference, perhaps the nuance there is knowing that not only that was the case, but I could use that in a way to build a great business as well. Like those two things needed to coalesce. And I think about that for pro advisor coaches, there's a lot of great coaches out there doing a lot of great things, and there's not a lot of great coaches out there that have a lot of great businesses as well. And so that was what those two things together was important for me. So that was kind of the journey for me at pro advisor coach initially. But it was proving it out. And so like anything, it was when you first start out, the measurables, the cycle of success has to be really tight. So week on week, month on month, are you doing the activities? Are you getting new clients? Is it growing? And the further that process continues, then you can start to look at it not day on day or hour on hour, but then week on week and then month on month. And then you can start to look quarter on quarter. And I'm probably just at that spot right now where I'm looking at quarter on quarter and I can predict where things are going. But it's certainly like every year or every cycle, there's an extra level of certainty because there's more evidence. But I would certainly say through the pre-contract and getting like the first significant client and then having two or three more, I suppose. I don't know if there was a point for me where it was just like, oh, it works, or oh, I did it. Like I suppose I'm still in that spot. But again, I'm not looking for absolute certainty there, but I know it works. I've done it. I know it still works. I'm doing it. I know it's going to work. I'm gonna. And so they're all those three things together. But certainly the being able to go to pro advisor coach full time, like I can see the path. It's proved out. Like it's not done or fixed or complete because it never will be because that's not how things work. But there's enough here now to jump in and go full time. And so that's just very specific for my journey because it wasn't from the start. It's not like I had 40, 50 hours a week from the start to invest in. It was just bits and pieces of time stolen from other areas, if you will.
And how long did you work part-time at this before you made the leap to full-time?
I guess a little under 18 months. probably 15, 16 months, something like that, over a year.
How would you describe the value of PAC?
Well, I literally wouldn't have this business and be in the place I am without it. I mean, it's like it's the whole thing for me. Uh, it's it's having a track to run on to understand how actually what's the system for growing your business. So what are the steps? What's the science? What's the 1, 2, 3 of it? And then also having support in the more subjective view of it, and then to make sure that you keep staying on the path. So that guidance to watch others that have done it before or doing it differently. And then you've got the more practical technology support, infrastructure support. You have. It shouldn't be understated how important it is to see other people winning as well. It's really important to think about that. And then it's the collective of where are we going overall. Because we should always thinking about how can we help support the overall infrastructure at Pro Advisor Coach, because that's the thing that allows for a big lift overall, right? So everyone, the sum of the parts is greater than the individual, and so as you come into Pro Advisor Coach, it's like grow your business for you, like you own it, but you've got the support around for what you need. Go ask for it, and you also get to help build the infrastructure as well, because again, it's not done, finished. It's always evolving. There's loads to take, but there's also loads to give. And the more that you can give to it, the more that it will give back to you as well. And so that whole philosophy, mentality, and mindset is what I believe coaching is anyway. So it's working in the business of Pro Advisor Coach and working your business inside of Pro Advisor Coach in the same mentality you would, I hope, coach your clients.
Yeah, we have this revenue share model, which is fairly unique. How would you explain those that would be a good fit for the revenue share model?
Yeah. You should only play long-term game. You should only play long-term games, and you should only play long-term games with long-term people. I think if you're in a place where you are going into coaching for a exploration or I've got a few years here that I want to look at this and then I want to do something else. If it's a stepping stone to something else, or just something where you're not all the way in, then you're probably looking for more like immediate wins. You're probably looking for smash and grab as much as I can take now and then get the hell out of there. And it doesn't mean to say you shouldn't be thinking about what you need to progress and do well in the meantime, but you also want to make sure that you can think about what the future is, I believe. And so if that's the mindset that I think we really need to have at Pro Advisor Coach, that you can win now, but you can win even bigger in the future as well. And so that's the thought. It's like, okay, how do I make sure that I'm winning now, I'm winning in the medium term, and winning in the future? And the mindset of collaboration and abundance. If you have that, if those things resonate, then Pro Advisor Coach could be a big fit for you. If you're not looking for the long term and you're not looking to create more than you are, and you're not looking to go for something that right now is scary for you, or right now doesn't feel like there's something you could attain, then like it's probably not a good fit. But that's the mindset. Like people that it doesn't matter how good you are individually as a coach or a consultant, how much impact you've had, and in fact, the more impact you've probably had, the more that you realize that you can't do it by yourself, and you need to be able to have a way of creating leverage. And Pro Advisor Coach is the way to do that.
Mm-hmm. Can you share a story about how the network within Pro Advisor Coach allowed you to be, maybe you got a client from Pro Advisor Coach, which that relationship turned into another relationship, and that other relationship created this. And can you share a story about that? Because that's really, I think, that where the power is in this group.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, a coach came to us who's not here anymore, but she was with us for a year and a half or so. Great lady, great coach. Came to a couple of our on sites, and she was in a place in her life, and this is a great example for what I just said about being the right fit. So it was for her. She had the overall outlook and philosophy of abundance and creating more with others, but she was at a very particular place in her life where she needed some certainty, and the specific coaching she wanted to do was very niche, and she felt like she wanted to do that on a journey on her own ultimately. But through that process, she was very well connected, had a lot of education background, was involved in a lot of forums down in South Florida. And I connected well with her. And as we were going through, she asked me for help to support some of her clients. And she had some good opportunities that came up as well. And I helped support her. And she brought me in one of the clients, which was down in South Florida. Also, we did an on-site, and we coached the whole team. And it was really her first client, but it was definitely a connection that she brought on that I resonated well with them and helped support her. And then from that client gave us a bunch of referrals, and there was one other client that was a big that they referred us to, that we spent some time doing an awareness process. So that was like a $18,000 experience for just a probably a couple of months work that me and that coach went through. And then there was also another referral that we started working with this CEO who we were working with, both of us. And then when she left, she ultimately handed that client off to me. And that client now, the CEO, I work with him and 6 of his leadership team, and they're my biggest client by far. And I also have one of our coaches now as a split on that as well. And so that's, for me, the best example of how that works together, and just bringing the right outlook and creativity relationship through to continue to add value, right? And you keep doing that, keep pushing doors and open them. And that, without her, without Private Coach, that wouldn't be true for me now. I've been down there 2 or 3 times already to see that client, and there's just some great, I get a lot of value out of that client every single week that I work with, and it allows me to get even closer with the Coach Josh, who's on that account with me, and in other ways that we collaborate together. And because of that, now I've collaborated with Coach Josh with some of his clients. They're also in Florida, and there's this situation where it starts to spiral up even more, right? Or you start to add on more and more of it. So for me, that who knows, because we're still in that situation, so who knows what else could come out of it. But that's the juice.
Nice. How would you describe the culture of Pro Advisor Coach?
I think a lot of the words I already said, just come to mind. The openness, the collaboration, I just feel very safe and open with everyone I work with here and talk to. It's like we hold the line for delivery on things, but we also have a high level of it's okay. Like an example might be, I mentioned Coach Josh, like we record our podcast twice a week. It's on the calendar twice a week, but oftentimes there'll be something that we decide that someone comes in town, or there's a reason why we can't do that certain time, and we'll just go, I can't do that, Coach. And there's so much depth in what we've set up that every time I do that, or he does that to me, there's never even an inkling of, oh, why is that cancelled again? Because it doesn't feel like it's a cancel again. It's just that's the way it is right now, and there's a reason for it. And there's so much trust that it makes things flow so much easier. And I just feel like that in every interaction I have with everyone here.
How would you describe the retreats that we have twice a year?
I think they're fantastic in the impact that you can have, and how important getting immersive and getting deep with people really is over a relatively short amount of time. 1, 2, 3 days of just immersion of holding high standards. I think it's really, really important as well. Again, it talks to the first experience I had coming to Pro Advisor Coach around relationship first, people first. Because it's about, we're here it's a business. We want to be here to create the right outcomes and to grow and to serve lots of people and make money through that. But it starts with people, and that has to be remembered. And those retreats are very important for that.
Okay, last question. What would you say to a coach who's kind of just starting out, maybe making a transition like you did, from the corporate world to coaching, what advice would you share with them?
Just get clear about what it is that you want and what are you committed to becoming and what do you want to create. And if any of those answers are on the lines of like, I want to make the most of what I possibly can. I want to create something which I can't even think about that I could have tomorrow, but I know that with the right people around me, with the right structure and the right commitment from that person themselves, they could get to something bigger than themselves. You can't do it on your own. At least you can't do it to the full extent on your own. And so I think I always refer it like a plug and play. It's like, hey, there's plenty of options. There's a way of just getting out and hitting your business. That's what Pro Advisor Coach is also. But it starts with, hey, looking inside that person. What do they want to get to? Because there's nothing that can replace that, and that's the ultimate place to be. Once you're committed to creating that, let's come and run together, right? Let's come and create that together. Let's be part of the big picture overall, and I'll tell them what we can create then.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
All right.
All right.